Wow, that was more effective than I ever had as a technique running a middle school classroom. That's just pretty impressive. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you, Michael Spagna, the president of Sonoma State University. And today is a very important day because we're going to be doing a budget update, budget forum. But I want to tell you at the outset that I come to you today with a lot of hope, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of optimism. I think you're going to hear that in our conversation today. But before we get started, I did want to start on a more somber note. We've lost a couple key members of our community, and so it's been a hard couple weeks for all of us, and I wanted to take a moment to have a moment of silence in honor of those we've lost in the last several weeks. There will be celebration of life events coming up, so stay tuned for that. But if we could, let's take a moment of silence for our lost colleagues who really gave so much to this university. Thank you. So let me start with going over the agenda to kind of give you a preview of what we'll be doing over the next couple hours. So first, I'm opening with some remarks and kind of an overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who's going to be giving a spring budget briefing. From there, we're going to go to strategic enrollment management with Paul, and then on to academic affairs with our provost. Then we're going to be doing some tabling exercises. You'll see the tables with easels around the room, and then I'll have some closing remarks. As we start with my opening, let me begin by saying that we now at Sonoma State University, with a lot of hard work from all of you, we have the capacity now to support ourselves over the next year as we regain our footing as an institution. And I will tell you, some of you have heard me say, in every environment that I've been in with Chambers of Commerce, the NorCal Business Roundtable and Council, everyone has pledged their support to us. And so this is very important as we go forward as a university. We're committed as a university to full transparency, and today you're going to see some numbers that are going to be important for all of us. And as you're watching this, think about how we navigate this going over the next couple of years. I will say that some of the numbers you're going to see are going to be things that you should have expected and we should have expected. One thing, as a spoiler alert, that we are going to see a little more dip in our enrollment until we regain our footing. So to just be honest with all of you, you don't go through what all of you went through in the last year and not experience that, but I will tell you, as you'll hear from Paul and some others, I have great optimism that what we've put in place to try and regain our footing in enrollment is going to work. And I'm setting out for all of you, my own milestone is fall 28, for us to get back into a level flight pattern and to be on a positive trajectory. And there are many reasons why that date is important for us and for me. Some of the numbers that you're going to see are going to be challenging as we look at that dip in enrollment, but part of the work that you need to all hear is we're out of the cutting mode. We're out of the discontinuation mode. We are in the mode now of strategic investment in each other, in the university, and how we're going to move forward as an institution. We have the resources to navigate this dip successfully over the next year. And we also have different activities that we've put in place that are going to work in terms of us coming forward as a university. Our expectation, as I said a moment ago, is that we're going to stabilize our enrollment. We're going to get that steady flight pattern and then start going where we were a couple of years ago, where we had the first increase in enrollment in 10 years at this university. For the fiscal year of 26-27, we have a period of reductions that were taking place, but we're now entering a phase of these strategic investments over the next couple of years. We have had unprecedented support from two areas that are so key, and you witnessed all of this with the elected officials and what the state has given us through the SSU commitment, also through the Chancellor and the Chancellor's office. So all the Board of Trustees are behind us, the Chancellor's behind us. With those resources, I am confident that we will navigate the next couple of years to restore Sonoma State University to the prominence that it's always deserved, and it was the reason that I came here as your president. We also have a hands-on approach that we're taking right now. There's been a lot of conversation of, are we changing the identity of this university? No, we are not. but we are still trying to get together to really define that identity. And so I really have to praise the faculty leadership of starting work on a series of retreats to get to that notion of what is our identity as an institution. Keeping our core in the area of liberal arts. I have to tell you, yesterday I toured our arts facilities. We have some arts facilities that are parallel to none in the state. Seeing a dark room, seeing our foundry, some of the areas, we have great assets at this university. We just have to establish that and establish it as a core, while at the same time, as you all know, modernizing, where students really right now, they're really questioning the value proposition of why should I go to college? And the reason why they should go to college is that they get set on a path to realize their dreams. And no better institution is poised than Sonoma State University to be able to realize those pathways. With the current budget, and enrollment is something that you're going to take a pause and take a breath. These trends were not unexpected, and as I said before, it's something that we're going to navigate quite well together, and we're going to do it together. I do want you to know that having been in several Cal State universities, there is a best practice that I'm bringing to bear here at Sonoma State University, and that is going forward. I have already let the provost and our vice president of admin and finance know I am giving them a charge to put the following budget priorities and principles forward for this university. These are things that hopefully resonate with all of you, and I've seen these as a bedrock of what we do positively in the Cal State system. First and foremost, the first priority is students first. Everything we do is about students, how we support them. It's the reason why I've been in the career for 35 years. A lot of you have been in the career for multiple decades. It's all about students. Number two, value personnel. We will do everything we can to preserve jobs at this university. And again, that is a high priority for us. Number three, fiscal resiliency. We are not going to be in a place where we are not going to have as our North Star balancing the budget. So we will not be engaging in more structural deficits. We're going to be in a place where we balance the budget as we did last year and move forward with the strengths that we have and what we have in place. And then finally, as you'll see today, none of this works unless you have full campus engagement. And that means full transparency. The numbers that you see today are the numbers that we all work with going forward. Does that mean that they will adjust? Possibly so, but we'll keep together on that front. I know historically at this university, we've had a budget forum in the fall and the spring. Going forward, I've also charged the two chairs, both the provost and the vice president of admin and finance, to have regular budget forums on a monthly basis, so that by the time we get to a full spring forum, you already have a preview of what's happening going forward. So those are some of the adjustments that I've made and that we're making as a university. But again, I'm going to start. I'm going to go to the next speaker as I share with you that I'm very enthusiastic about this university. I'm enthusiastic about what we're doing. It's very rare in the Cal State system to have so many people contacting us and saying, how can we help? So it's our time. It's our time at Sonoma State to re-elevate ourselves, and I'm very confident over the next couple of years we will do so. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura now, who's going to give you the spring budget briefing. These are the numbers we're all working with. And remember that there always are vectors in play here. We're going to have to wait for the May revise. I will let you know something that some of you have heard before. A year ago, we had a situation where the governor had proposed an 8% cut. There was a lot of lobbying. We got that down to a 3% cut in the system. This year, 180-degree turn, the governor is giving us more money than we asked for in the Cal State system. And I truly believe the reason why the governor is doing that, and we're crossing our fingers to get to the May revise where that holds, is I think that the state recognizes that public higher education is critical. It's critical for our democracy, for our state, and I think it's part of the overall recovery over the next several years. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura. She's going to come up and give you the spring budget briefing, and then I'll go between the different speakers as we go forward. Thank you. Thanks, Laura.
Really have to lower that mic now. Good morning, everyone. I'm Laura Lupe. I'm the Associate Vice President for University Budget and Resource Planning. Thank you all for coming this morning. I'll be providing the spring budget briefing, which will give a preview of our planning for the 26-27 budget year. Before we start on next year's budget plan, though, I want to take a moment and review our university reserves and designated balances. So this is something that we have available in our open book transparency portal, but we haven't presented it at the budget forums before. But it is an important part of campus budget planning. So we're going to start including it in the budget forum. Typically, I would include it in the fall because we finalize our reserves and designated balances in July at the beginning of the year. But I want to get everyone up to date for this year, so I'm going to include it now in our spring briefing, and then I'll start to include it every fall. So in our campus reserve policy, which is also available on our website, our reserve policy designates that we designates rules for our university-wide division roll forward. And our university-wide balance as of June 30th, 2025 was $11.3 million. And this slide shows the details of that balance. So you can see that the university operating reserve balance was $881,000. The capital reserve balance was $4.15 million. The maintenance reserve balance was $1.56 million. The equipment reserve balance was $314,000. And then we designated $1.4 million to fund recruitment scholarships for this year. And that left us $2.9 million to add to the reserves. This slide shows all of the categories for the reserves and how we broke it out. So that first column is the prior year balances that I listed on the last slide. The second column is how we allocated that $2.9 million that we added to the reserves. And the reserve policy sets goals for each of the categories and tells us how to calculate the funding that we add to the reserves. So that's how we decide how much to allocate to each of the categories. This year, we also added an additional $2.8 million of a designated allocations to the reserve. These were monies that were being held in other funds, but we, for transparency and reporting purposes, decided to move them to the central reserves. They were allocated out to the different categories also based on the goals set in the reserve categories. So you can see in the fourth column the totals that we started the year with in the reserves. We had $4 million in the operating reserve, almost $2 million in the maintenance reserve, $6.3 million in the capital reserve, and $363 million in the equipment reserve, for a total of almost $12.7 million in the university reserves. This is the healthiest that the reserve has been since we started the pandemic, essentially. So this is good news. I know I haven't been showing it to you, but this is a good year for me to show it to you. Okay, so we're going to shift to our campus budget planning for 26-27. So this slide shows the final budgets that we received from the state for the 24-25 and 25-26 year, and then the January governor's budget proposal for the 26-27 year. In 24-25, the CSU got $240 million of increased base budget from the state, and this was the year 3 compact funding. The compact is the governor's agreement with the CSU to increase our ongoing general fund budget by 5% each year. That year, we also got a $75 million one-time reduction that was absorbed by all of the campuses. This year, in 2025-2026, we got a reduction of $143.8 million. That's the reduction the president referred to. That was the 3% reduction across the system. We also got a zero interest loan of $143.8 million that we're using for one-time compensation in the system. We got one-time funding in the system of $50 million, $45 million of which came to Sonoma as the SSU commitment funding. So for 26-27, what was in the January governor's budget is the return of the $143.8 million reduction, which is great news. We also are getting a partial funding of the year 4 compact that we didn't get this year of $100.9 million, and then the full year 5 compact that we would expect to receive in 2026-2027, and that's $264.8 million. So the total proposed funding to the CSU is $505.5 million. Oh no, I forgot it this morning. $505.9 million. Yes. And that, as the president said, is more than we expected. So the state is wanting to invest in the CSU, which is great news for us. They also, as an asterisk, is offering a second $143.8 million one-time loan to the CSU. So overall, this is great news for the CSU, and the state wanting to invest in higher education. So when we move to campus planning, this slide outlines the impacts to our campus plan that we know at this time. We started this year with a balanced budget and a surplus of just over $1 million. So that's our starting point for planning for this year. We're also building into the plan that return of the prior year base reduction, our share of that $143.8 million, which for us was about $2.3 million. So we expect that to be returned. We are expecting a downturn in our enrollment and our corresponding tuition revenue next year. We're still graduating a larger class than we expect for an incoming class. As the president said, Interim Vice President Paul Edwards for Strategic Enrollment Management and Interim Provost Stacy Bosick will be here talking about all of the initiatives that we have underway to start turning that number around over the next years. We have some adjustments to our cost allocation revenue and other campus revenues as well. And we have the enrollment reallocation. This is the third year of the enrollment reallocation, and this is due to us being under target. So the Chancellor's Office is reallocating our target from target enrollment from our campus to campuses that have the capacity to grow. So they're cutting our target enrollment and the corresponding funding for that. The estimated impact to our budget is about $3.8 million. We also have some impacts to our cost. So we've been funding presidential recruitment scholarships as part of our recruitment efforts for the past several years, and we've been funding those with one-time funds. So we're looking to build those into our base budget over the next few years, and 26-27 would be the first year of that plan. We're also funding some campus essential operations and some strategic priorities. These are in areas such as building NAGPRA operations into the base and funding some campus marketing and recruitment areas. There is some one-time funding available for these areas, but we also do need to make some ongoing investments. So with all of those adjustments taken into account, we are projecting about a $6.3 million deficit for next year. These items will change, not might, but will. We are in the middle of the spring planning period, and there are still changes coming from the Chancellor's Office, coming from the state as we go through the rest of this fiscal year. So I do anticipate that there will be adjustments in these numbers that I'm showing you, but we wanted to share this information with the campus with what we know today. So I found this typo as I was reviewing this morning, but but we do need to balance the budget for the 26-27 year next year, but we do not anticipate making base reductions for next year, as the president said already. We anticipate balancing it utilizing reserves and one-time funds. It's part of the reason I showed you the reserves this morning. And so we will close it using one-time resources as we look to invest in balancing and stabilizing our enrollment moving forward. We'll also continue to update our planning assumptions as we get more information from the state and the CSU on some of these, on some of this information as it adjusts through the rest of the year. So we are in April now, and the next major checkpoint in our planning timeline is the governor's May revision, which will give us the first peek at whether the state is going to keep those assumptions of that were provided in the governor's budget proposal, that $505.9 million dollars to the CSU. So that's my update for spring. I hope this has been helpful information. Please know that on our budget website, there's a lot of information. We have our 2025-26 campus budget plan is available there. We'll also upload a recording of the forum as well as the presentation that you see today. There's also the link to the SSU commitment tracking website. And please always feel free to reach out to myself or anyone in my office for any questions that you may have. I really appreciate your time and attention this morning. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Laura. So a couple things to point out as we are about to go in to talk about strategic enrollment planning. Two things that Laura shared. One is that when you see that $6.3 million, it's like, oh, well, what does this mean for us? I think it was very important that Laura led off with the reserves we have, because here's the news. We have the resiliency financially to navigate this year. So I want you to remember that in terms of how we move forward. There's another element up there you saw in one of the transparencies, one of the overheads, which was the reallocation in the state. And we've been doing this for several years in the Cal State system. I've been really advocating with the chancellor and the trustees to start rethinking that model, because eventually you can't stop investing in the North Bay. And so the idea of reallocating enrollment, as our enrollment starts to come back, I'm working very earnestly to try and get that reallocation number taken away. And that's a big bite out of our budget. So look for things to come on that front. Many of you have been involved in what is going to be our important initiative going forward for the next couple of years. How do we get enrollment back to this institution? And as I said at the outset, I'm confident about what we're doing on this front. It's going to take all of us. Although you're about to hear Paul come up and talk about what's been happening in strategic enrollment, every one of us is going to have to be involved in enrollment. And I really appreciate how staff and faculty and students have kind of leaned in on this front. I still think we have a long way to go to tell our story. As I go into local high schools, I think a lot of high school students need to see what you're doing every day at this university. Like I mentioned my tour of the art facilities. I don't think the high school students are seeing everything we're doing in the arts. So the notion of I'm thinking about this, how could I get involved at this university? I'm going to need all of your help as we go forward to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul and invite him up to talk about all the activities we've been doing and to kind of center us in terms of what's going to be important for us over the next couple of years, starting to stabilize and improve enrollment.
Good morning, everybody. I think in a previous life in higher ed, I would have made everybody move to the front, but I won't do that. I'll just pretend you're all in the front place. And I'm super blind, at least, so I apologize for the on and off with my glasses. But thank you for the opportunity to be here today to talk a little bit about this. I want to piggyback on the transparency notion that President Spagna made. And so I've had a lot of conversations recently with people who and I will say up front, I geek out about some of this stuff. So if I get into the weeds a little bit, some of you know that about me. I apologize, but it's just, some people have asked, how can you be so excited with where enrollment is right now? And I'll be really straightforward. One, I trained under a great leader that you all know, who was here for a couple of years and got things going. And one of the things that happened is, January 2025 was not a fun time for any of us that were here. And for some of you that have been here a heck of a lot longer than I have, I can't put into words what you all have gone through. But I was here and saw that happen. But one thing that got overlooked, and I understand why it got overlooked, and we shouldn't apologize for overlooking it, given what happened. But when census numbers came out in spring 25 and they did the annual year numbers, Sonoma State grew by 1%, and it was the first time on paper that we could actually see growth. Nobody wanted to talk about it, and we weren't talking too loudly about it, given the circumstances. But that's one of the things that I've responded to when people have asked me, why do you have the encouragement or the confidence that you have? The other thing that I will tell you that why I have confidence that this, as President Spagna mentioned, may take a couple of years, but why I have confidence that will happen is because if you spend, any of you by show of hands, how many people have spent any time in the Welcome Center? A lot of you. Well, you need to come over when you're having a bad day and spend a little bit more time in the Welcome Center, because if nothing else, if you just get a little bit of Zach in you, and you all know what I'm talking about. When I accepted the interim job for this year, I had the chance to be upstairs, and with all due respect to my colleagues upstairs, I wanted to be in one place, and that was in the Welcome Center, because that's where you just, the energy down there, and being on the first floor to be around the strategic enrollment people who have oodles and oodles of energy, but to be around young people who were in the res halls, went here, are committed to the communities, there's nothing like it. So when you ask me, and what you're about to hear today is a lot of stuff that we're doing, but that's where my energy and confidence comes from in terms of our ability to turn this around. So first thing I want to talk about is marketing and strategic communications. When I first got here, I said, hey, Ed, where do I go for communications and where do I go for marketing? And he said, yeah, we don't have that, but we're working on it. And so I want to remind people, and I could mention lots and lots of names, but I'll give one shout out, and that's to Tiffany O'Neill and her team in that area. She's been doing this with this group for 9 months and 9 months only. And I don't know if it's on the slide there, Laura, that you can throw up for me. Is it, where is it? Oh, I got to do I got to do it myself. Oh my gosh, pressure. I got it. I put the cycle on there at the bottom just for people, and we're not going to go into detail, but the enrollment cycles are no longer 9 to 12 to 15 months. As most of you know, we're working with elementaries, we're working with 7th and 8th graders, we're connecting with students way before their 9th or 10th or 11th grade year. 11th grade year has been the traditional one. So to be able to have a strategic communications and a marketing team that is starting to put out collateral that's consistent, our websites are showing changes, we're getting better ads, we're focusing on connecting with our bilingual population. So we're connecting with collateral there. We're having updates, whether it be a student filling out a prospect card or whatever it might be. So without the efforts of the marketing team that we now have, we wouldn't stand a chance. So just I want to give them kudos from the beginning. Lead prospects generation. So as everybody knows, you generate prospects through a lot of different ways. One of the things that Ed and I figured out about 1.5 years ago, that there were some things missing and we needed to do something different in terms of improving the number of prospects that we were getting. So with a one-time funding from a grant from a couple of years ago, we started working with 5 different lead generation third-party companies that do this for a living. And we basically rebooted our Slate CRM and almost started over. But again, this 8 to 9 month difference that has been made is also in that prospect area. We have gone from basically resetting to, over the course of the last 8 months, rebuilding our prospect pool up to 120,000 names. Half of those are from fall 26, but the other half are from fall 27. So we have a much better earlier start getting out as we start to plan our fall 27 campaigns. Admissions partnerships, anybody that's been around me hears me talk a lot about the MOUs and the guaranteed admissions. Sometimes you'll hear them referred to as direct admissions or SB 640. For us at Sonoma State, this is something that before I got here, President Lee and Ed Mills started. There was a connection and a need to get back into the high schools, start to create some relationships, and we did that through the forms of guaranteed admissions. We had about 10 when I got here, and in the last 8 to 9 months, you can see that's a theme that's been going on, but in the last 8 to 9 months, we have established 11 new MOUs, 10 of those with high schools. Many of those were in our region, but we also connected with Visalia Unified, which got us some good press in EdSource and got our name out there, and all of this in the name of building back trust and restoring some of what we lost in terms of reputation. We also connected with community colleges, like it or not, and I know this institution was built on the backs of first-year students, housing, et cetera, and we need to get back to that. But I think right now we're seeing in higher ed a lot of students heading to the community college direction, whether it be affordability or whatever the case might be. So our admission partnerships, we're trying to focus a little on the community college level. We signed our first out of area with American River College, which if you're familiar with Sacramento area, they're a large, robust community college. That led us to partner with one of their sister schools. We're about ready to sign with Folsom Lake College, they're all part of the Los Rios system. That also got us then connected with Sierra College, which is the largest community college in Placer County. So we're going to continue those efforts. I also didn't want to ignore the rural population, rural communities that we serve. You know, we're one of those institutions that has 2 of our 6 counties that are rural's just the easiest, quickest way to say it. So we focused on Lake County, and so I'm happy to say that we have now connected and signed MOUs with 4 of the 5 Lake County Unified School Districts. We're working on the 5th, Middletown. We'll get them, I promise. So these partnerships are going to be critical, and they're a bit of friend-raising right now, but they will become pipelines and connections where our recruitment team and some of you in the crowd will be at these institutions, and there will be some consistency created, and there will be some trust built back between those institutions. Recruitment efforts, I want to kind of zip through a bunch of those. I don't think a lot of people knew that we had to rebuild some of our recruitment team. We lost 2 recruiters at the end of 2024. We didn't have a recruitment coordinator, and we were on the verge of losing our slate analyst. I'm happy to say we're back to that level. We got all those positions back in place. And what that has done for us is it's allowed our recruitment team to get out to 660 events and locations over the course of this academic year. And I want to just talk about that for a second, because you can go a lot of places and that works. And an outreach model that a lot of the CSUs, including Sonoma State, got to do was an outreach model. You know, just if we show up, if you build it, they will come kind of attitude. Well, we all know that that's changed and it's gotten more competitive, and we have to start showing up in places multiple times. So one of the things that we've focused on is a little more strategic, whereas I call it the spray and pray model. We're not going to just spray out everywhere and pray that students will come from 1 visit or 2 visits. We're trying to get out to locations multiple times. So some of these MOUs that I talked about earlier, I want students to start recognizing the logos and the names, and every second Tuesday of the month, Emily from Sonoma State's going to be here. And that's traditionally over the last decade where you've seen recruitment efforts go. My previous institution had that model, and students just came to expect it. And I think over time, as you build that confidence back with the students, they know at those community colleges and high schools that there's going to be somebody from Sonoma State present. So that's sort of the focus on the event attendance. Out of state, we haven't had a great presence since I got here 4 semesters ago in out of state. So I've charged our recruitment team with some additional efforts there. Many of you know Izzy, who's been our international recruiter. We've moved Izzy into a role where he's not only doing international recruitment, but he's doing Out of state, we're focusing on early on, first year, we're focusing on some of the closer WUI states, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. We will expand that. We need to expand that. There is opportunity there. The data shows it, that we've had applications and interests. That goes back to working with those lead generation companies. They're helping us diversify where we send prospect notes or where we connect. So some of those companies are helping us focus more in out of state, Sacramento, or locally. The other area that I know is probably on everybody's mind, and that is Southern California. This school seems, from the data that I can see, was built on connections and funnels of students coming from Southern California. It's uber competitive there. There's 26 schools that have landed, private schools that have landed, private and public, that have put themselves in the LA basin. And that's made competition probably 10 times worse than it was 5 years ago, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't be still doing it. We need to get back into that space. Kyle Williams is one of our recruiters. He's still down there, but we've started to send more recruiters in spaces. And we're looking at the data a little bit, where we're trying to get specific on some of the counties in Southern California. It's going to take time. This one might be the one that's going to take the most time, but we absolutely have to get there. Housing depends on it, and other folks on campus depend on that population of out-of-area students, and we need to get them. So rest assured, that's a focus for our team as well. Provost Bostic's going to talk a little bit about dual enrollment, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, because I know my team in strategic enrollment has been involved, as well as folks in academic affairs. But if you didn't know, we set a dual enrollment record of over 450 students enrolled for the spring. I think the highest we've ever had in a given semester was around 160. No, it's not going to solve our problem. It's students are taking 3 units, they're at a discounted rate. But if, again, we look at that rebuilding trust, rebuilding reputation, getting better partnerships and connections, that's what dual enrollment can do for us. We need to make some tweaks to it, and I know Stacy will talk about that a little bit today. But dual enrollment at least was a nice head count answer for this year. And that was with 9, maybe 10, I'm looking at folks in the crowd, Jen and others. I think it's about 9 high schools. On paper, we have the potential to partner with 19 schools by 2027, and that could lift dual enrollment up to as many as 750 to 1,000 students. So again, not the total answer, but something we should be doing. Of course, we're doing our normal, campaigns. Kudos to the admissions staff. Sometimes I don't think right now that they think they're admissions staff. I think they're telemarketers. The way we're having to make phone calls to prospects, to admits, to you name it, where they are in the funnel, we're trying to reach out to them and make that connection. But we are doing some things that I don't think we've done as much of, and that, again, I mentioned it earlier, bilingual family connection. We have 2 recruiters, and I was able to get a retired annuitant, Bill McChrist, to come aboard and work with us this year. He's bilingual. And so what that's allowed us to do is have a lot more campaigns with that population of students, and not only the students, but the parents who want to hear why Sonoma State's the right place for them. Is it a safe place for me to send my son or daughter? We're doing some of that stuff. We've been a little slow on this part of it, but I want to try to get strategic enrollment in a place where they can start partnering a lot more intentionally with academic affairs and others. And so Stacy and I have been talking about trying to do some work with faculty. And I know this has been done before, but I think we need to try it again. I think there's some tweaks that we can make to it, but there's some easy things like postcard campaigns where faculty can write notes, and we need to start trying to kind of think out of the box, or try things that we tried 5 or 6 years ago that may not have worked, and we'll get there. And so, speaking of my last topic, partnerships with faculty and staff, I've been asked this a couple times recently from reporters about the involvement of faculty, and I will just bluntly say it. I don't see robust enrollment efforts or us making any kind of change in this area if we're not involving the entire campus, and that includes our faculty. We have an amazing group of faculty, an amazing group of staff, and we've got to get them involved more. And I will tell you, from the time I got here in semester 1 to now I'm in my 4th semester here, and I'll miss names, but I've had connections with geology, history, political science, criminology, education, and kinesiology. and more, and I know I'm missing more, and I apologize if I didn't mention your area, but they aren't just, hey, I'd like to help. They're like, hey, I'd like to help, and can we sit down and chat about it? And they're giving us ideas. They're talking about how they can use their strengths. Because every faculty member that Kelly or I or Michael or any of our team in strategic enrollment works with, there's always something special about that person, whether they want to work at the community college, whether they want to focus on junior highs, it doesn't matter. They bring a special skill set. So I know Ed has stood up here for a couple years and done this before, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to say, please, if you're interested and you have some ideas, please come forward. It doesn't have to be connecting with me. It can be connecting with Michael, Kelly, bug Zach, whoever you need to, get in, sit down, and let's have a conversation and see where we can fit. What I don't want to do is say, yeah, come along to a college fair with and sit on the side and watch Zach or Emily or Cassandra do their stuff and hope that a couple of English majors might show up. I want to actually put you in a place where you can be successful and help us connect with students. I always remind our team, we recruit the students, but faculty, you recruit the programs. And when you recruit the programs, that's what's going to sell students and give them confidence to get here. So it's going to take time. I know that you're tired of hearing that. You've heard it said all day today. But I have confidence we're rebuilding a lot of trust. And if we have a little more patience, I think, as President Spanias said, we'll get there. So thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. So a couple highlights. I was taking notes as Paul was giving some of that, and we referred to it earlier. So first and foremost, you heard at the top I said we're going to have to make some strategic investments. This is a time of strategic investments. The one investment we need to make is with staff and faculty. I had a conversation yesterday with the chair and the vice chair of Academic Senate. How do we reach out to faculty where we are investing in them to support this effort? And I will tell you, some of you have heard me say this before, 20 years from now, students who've graduated are going to not know who the hell Mike Spagna was, but they will remember the name of their professor. I know that because I've had students that I prepared 20 years ago contacting me. So we have to tell those stories. When I was at Cal Poly Humboldt, the one thing that they did there is you get a professor who studied barn owls, would share that passion, and all of a sudden there'd be students in Southern California. They're like, I love barn owls too. How do I study it? So we're going to have to make that kind of investment. And we have all those assets right here. We have to do some strategic investments in that. I also want to point out, as Paul was ticking off some of those things, I'm going to put them into 3 categories. One is it's going to require interdependence. So I've already met with the College of Marin, the Mendocino College, Santa Rosa Junior College, all 3 of those presidents, and we're talking about how do we work closely together so we have a joint presence. At Santa Rosa College, President Garcia and I have talked about a 3+1 program where students come in for 1 year at the community college and get an accelerated 3 years guaranteed admission to Sonoma State. That will work. Same thing with Mendocino College. Presidents invited us out there. How can we work together? And the same thing with College of Marin. So the other part is that Paul mentioned we have marketing, but marketing can't just show the buildings and the beautiful grounds. We all know that. It's got to tell the story. So that's a big element of it. We have direct admission. We're still experiencing that. We're looking at the pipelines in Central and Southern California. I want to emphasize that. Some of you know where I recently came from at Cal Poly Humboldt. 20% of their student population came from Southern California. And so that wound up giving them a 4% increase year over year, 8% increase in enrollment over the last several years. So reestablishing that pipeline. Everywhere I've gone, I've talked about paid internships, and I want you all to reach across to kind of do that. If we don't do paid internships starting year 1, then really all of our North Bay community leaders, they've said, we'll come forward, we'll do that. What does the community want? They want students to be recruited here and to stay in the North Bay. And so I've said to them, well, we'll work on keeping students here in the North Bay, but you need to assure that they have jobs. So when some of you saw the recent detail about this, the unemployment rate right now for college graduates is 5.8%. The general population is 4%. So I need them to be able to step forward and say, here's a paid internship. You have a guaranteed job on the other side of it. We're looking at other things, like we're going to be looking at all new horizons for enrollment. And I'm going to ask your help on this. Paul didn't speak about it, but there are 3 areas that we've stayed away from traditionally in the Cal State system, and we can't afford to do that anymore. The first is, what about re-enrolling all the students that dropped out of Sonoma State? When I was at Dominguez Hills, we had 19,000 students over 10 years who had just left the university and never came back. We started a campaign there to make it easy to re-enroll. We had 300 students sign up in one semester. Where we're going to need all of your help, though, is that once we reach out to a student that dropped out, and we're convincing them to come back, we have to remove every barrier we can think of. Otherwise, we're going to break their promise when we have them come back to the university and say, thank you so much, you're going to have to go through the Cal State Apply process again. I will tell you, nothing will have a bigger chilling effect for a student to come back. And I've met many former students who have said, I wish I could have talked to my younger self when I made that decision not to continue. So that's an area. We also need to look very closely at what we're doing with adult and non-traditional learners. So we have a lot of students, and I appreciate everything that Jacob Yarrow's done an incredible job with Ollie, but we're not just talking about Ollie. We're talking about individuals who could come back who'd love to be affiliated with the university to upskill what they've been doing out in their professions. We've got to reach out to them as well. And then finally, what are we doing with alumni? So alumni, again, it shouldn't just be that we're conferring degrees. How are we welcoming alumni back to say we can give you additional skills? Great example. Many people say AI is going to ruin our world. Well, remember, I'm a former teacher. They used to say the calculator was going to ruin our world. We have to teach skills. And there are a lot of individuals, adult learners, alums, who'd love to come back and learn certain skills. They're not going to pursue another bachelor's degree, but they certainly would take 6-week, 8-week courses that could be provided to upskill them. That's a whole nother horizon. So with that and everything that Paul presented, the next segment we want to share with you, none of this matters unless we have incredible programs and incredible pathways. So with that, I'm going to invite the provost up to talk about all the exciting things we're doing on that front to try and make it so that we're really getting to our mission critical, which is pathways and programs for students. So with that, please welcome up Stacy.
I have to introduce myself with the slides. It's great to see y'all. Thanks for being here, especially all those who joined online, but especially those who came in person. It's just really great to have time with you here in the flesh. I did, in fact, draw the best straw today. Because I do get to talk about some rebuilding efforts and some of the more positive and exciting things that are going on. And so thanks to my colleagues for setting me up for that. But I'm overjoyed to share this with you. With my time today, I'm excited to spotlight kind of two areas of things. One, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what's going on in the Division of Academic Affairs to get after some of those different populations of students and attract them to the university. And then I want to switch over to our academic programming, and I want to talk about some of the programs that were initially suspended last year, how we have creatively innovated to bring some of those programs back, and then I want to spotlight a few new ventures that we're heading into. Paul discussed the important role of dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is the opportunity for high school students to be able to participate in our courses. There's several models of dual enrollment. Historically on our campus, we have focused on high school students coming here, expected that somehow they're going to secure a car and drive to our campus, pay for parking, and enroll in our courses. And that's possible, but it's limited. Right? Not all students have that sort of access. And so what we've been doing instead is flipping the script a little bit and taking these dual enrollment opportunities to them. We've done this in a couple of different ways. One, we've partnered with a lot of AP courses. AP courses are those accelerated courses, advanced placement courses that many students in high schools are taking nowadays. They're high stakes. And so we have some issues when it comes to disparities in success rates on those courses. If you come from a home where home life might be unpredictable, perhaps you didn't sleep well the night before that test, and you end up not getting credit for that course. And so what we're doing is providing an opportunity to map on to those courses so that students can enroll in our credit here at Sonoma State and be assured that if they complete that course successfully, they will in fact get credit from Sonoma State. What this does is a couple of things. It allows them to see success on their transcript. They already know I can do it. They already know they can make it at Sonoma State because they've already started that course of success. And it also gives us a lot of opportunity, right? Not only do we get that head count in the moment, counting them towards our enrollment and having that influence our budget, but we also have the opportunity to then go after those students, give them a t-shirt, get them out to campus, have them take a tour, have them meet our faculty, have them come to a guest lecture, have them see a show at the Green Music Center, right? And start really allowing them to see the bridge to Sonoma State. Even if they go to SRJC first, that's great. That's wonderful. We want them to not stop there. We want them to see that they can absolutely continue here. So that's one of the ways that we're really actively seeing growth in the types of students who are coming here. An additional way is that we're setting up very specific career pathways courses. And all credit to several of our deans who are heavily involved in this work, right? We've now got pathways in education and health sciences at several high schools in the area. In these scenarios, we're not mapping onto an advanced placement course. Instead, we have a standalone course at the high school where students are learning what it is like to have a career in those fields and what the pathway is like. If you've, I think many of you know, because I talk about my dad a fair amount, he's in construction. I grew up, all the men in my house are in construction, right? If you don't have any other examples of careers in your family, it's hard to imagine what you'll do. You don't have the worldview. And so what we're doing is taking those experiences into the high schools so that they can truly visualize what those careers will be like for them. All right? So we're seeing rapid growth in dual enrollment, and we think it shows a lot of promise. An additional area in which we're looking and supporting Paul and his team and the entire university in diversifying our student population is in the area of adult learners. Here, we note that there are over 6 million adult learners in the state of California. Nearly half, 47.5% of community college students are adults, 25 to 55, who have some college but haven't completed. We want them here. We want to become known as accepting adult learner populations and seeing them through to completion. They represent an important means to that enrollment, and we want to serve them. Only 20% of our student population is currently adult learners here at Sonoma State, so we've got a fair amount to go. What we're doing is launching some of our supports for adult learners in extended education. Why are we doing it in extended education? Well, the reason we're starting in extended ed is because it allows us to collect a different student fee, right? It allows us to change up the student fee and provide targeted services that are most important to adult learners that may not be important, or they might, right? We may learn that it's important to all of our students, but we're starting with adult learners, making sure that we have concierge-style access to advising and career support, ensuring that we're helping them through Cal State Apply, ensuring that we have intensive advising for credit for prior learning opportunities, and that we have increasing off-time and online course scheduling and supports for them. And so look for that. We'll be growing that population of students, very likely in the long term to influence some of our stateside operations. We're grateful for the work that's also going on in student affairs in this area, where they're looking to build out supports for adult learners, and so definitely continue to watch in that space. We know that we lost a fair number of programs last year. So this recent, since August or the summer, we've really been spending a lot of time trying to reimagine what some of these programs could look like. Were there creative ways that rather than fully discontinuing the programs, we could look to bring them back in a revised form, in a creative form, in a way that really suits students? And we've done that. I'm happy to say that it's not academic affairs, it's not me that's done that, right? It's the faculty and it's the staff And it's the deans, right, who have worked creatively with faculty to make this happen. And I want to give you some very clear examples. Our BS in geology has already reopened for admissions. We have a redesigned curriculum that integrates environmental science, better aligns to current career pathways and state licensure requirements. We've coupled geology with environmental science and equipping the program and the students in it to address challenges from climate change to surface and groundwater systems, geohazards, and resources management. These issues are critical to our local economy, our public safety, and in our environmental sustainability. And they're shared by communities all around the world. And this revised program prepares students to become leader in this field. As a part of expanding our partnerships beyond SSU, students will have the opportunity to work with agencies like the Department of Water Resources, with internships closely mentored by our faculty. Faculty are moving very quickly to expand marketing and recruitment efforts, and we have no doubt that we'll see continued success. Physics is also back. The faculty in physics put their heads together and came up with a very creative way of doing course rotations in their program, right? Very thoughtful, very efficient. Moreover, our faculty in physics took the lead in partnering with other CSUs. Specifically, they're offering particle physics, Introduction to Particle Physics, which is a collaborative course with CSU Stanislaus. This was faculty-led, faculty-driven, but allowed our university to bring back physics for our students. That program, too, is already open. As soon as we could, we wanted to open these programs because in some sense we were already offering the classes that we needed to serve the students anyway, either through GE or through Teach Out, and we don't want to lose one student. So physics said, hey, we've got some students who would transfer in if we could just open it today. And we said, let's do it. We've also seen the return of our History MA program, but not in the old way, right? We've come and we've revitalized it. The history faculty got together and came up with Sonoma State's very first blended BA MA program. Admissions to history is now reopened. We have a blended pathway that allows students to pursue both degrees in a streamlined fashion here at Sonoma State. Undergraduate history students can apply to the graduate program and count up to 12 units of their undergraduate work to their graduate program. History is already inviting other programs here at the university to join them, to collaborate with them. And we're seeing lots of great movement and collaboration in this area. Ethnic studies, political science are currently in talks with history to determine how students can end up in the history MA, not just because they were history undergraduate students, but because they were ethnic studies undergraduate students or political science undergraduate students, right? And so we're starting to see these amazing pathways into graduate programs. And we can imagine lots of models for this on our campus. We are also going to see a revision of our MBA program with the wine concentration. Historically, that's been a hybrid program where some of the courses are in person and some have been online. That's been a great effort and has worked for many years. The faculty are now realizing that in order to tap into a larger, broader population of students, that program needs to be entirely online. That allows us to address the needs of those who are already working in the wine industry in some capacity and tap students who may be outside of the area, right? Sonoma County wine, we all know it's the best wine. But there is wine in other areas, and we want to be able to equip the students working in other wine industries with MBAs from our institution. So we'll look forward to that. The planned launch date for that is fall of '27. And the reason I'm telling you the launch dates is because I want you to tell your friends, right? I want you to be proud, and I also want you to recognize within the timeline that we're talking about that, no, it's not today necessarily, it's not tomorrow, but it's soon, right? We're opening these rapidly, we're opening them soon. We've got lots of energy. Nursing, you all saw my communication yesterday. I trust you read it from start to finish. We do have a new change in nursing. We are renovating Nichols Hall. We'll be starting directly after this meeting. We put shovels behind. We're going to need everybody involved. Other duties is assigned. Okay, we're not starting directly after this forum, but we are starting soon. We're going to have the golden shovel dig later in the spring semester, and then that will take a couple of years. It's not. I'll be honest with you. It's not going to be a Stevenson fully renovated, completely changed building, right? This is going to be a little bit more modest of a renovation in order to keep to our budget, but it's going to be amazing. And it's going to be a dedicated space for our School of Nursing. It's going to allow us to expand not only our pre-licensure program, but also our RN to BSN program, which is mostly our transfer students, our Master in Science in Nursing, and our new postgraduate certificate in psychiatric nursing. Lest you feel that we're moving toward a sort of nursing-focused institution, theater is also making a comeback, right? We're making a comeback. I know. We're bringing theater back in lots of innovative ways, looking at how to develop an integrated minor that integrates with other courses on campus. And to this very point, guess what the nursing students are doing now? They're teaming with our theater students, where the theater students are posing as patients. Yeah, it's a Seinfeld episode. They're posing as patients, and the nursing students are treating them, right? And why? Because the Dean Carlton, is working very closely with our faculty member, Scott Horstein, to develop embodied experiences and how the theater experience can link into important career trajectories. Okay. So stay tuned on that front as well. We understand that we've got a real problem on this campus. Even with that growth, we cannot accept all the nursing students who want to be nursing. So we have a new program also coming online in health sciences. This health sciences degree is innovative in that it brings together nursing, kinesiology, and biology. They have collaborated, sweated it out, in order to develop a new major in health sciences, and we're looking to enroll students in fall of '27. This health science degree is going to provide a new pathway for students who are interested in medical careers in public health, health data and technology, healthcare administration, just to name a few. So rather than students learning that they weren't admitted to nursing and then leaving Sonoma State, we're going to keep them here. We're going to keep them here and allow them to explore other careers that they're going to be interested in. And finally, data science, right? Data science degree, I shouldn't even say finally, because there's lots more going on. Data science task force has been incredibly hard at work. And they have come up with a really innovative solution in order to assure that all aspects of data science are available to our students. And that is that they're branching off and developing two majors. One is a strict BS in data science, and the other is a BA in data, cultures, and society, which allows us to explore how data integrates with the social sciences and the liberal arts and all of these fields that we offer here. That is also targeted to open in fall of '28. Those are a few of the exciting things that are going on in the world of academics. None of it is easy, right? None of it is easy, and that's something that I really want to stress. I'm selling it to you and I'm telling you about it enthusiastically because I'm genuinely excited about what's coming. But behind the scenes, there have been tears, not mine. There have been tears, right? There have been concerns about existential crises. What am I giving up? I'm giving up this course in order to allow this course to be offered. I'm having to revise my curriculum in such a way to make things work. I'm having to merge with another program, right? None of this is easy. It's been horrible. It's been hard. But the faculty and the staff and all of you have been integral in making it happen. And I want to thank you for that, because that really represents how we do come together as a community. And it's not just the faculty, right? Every time we have a new program, we've got to change the catalog. Carrie has to change the catalog. Right? We've got to do all of these behind the scenes things. And so I thank you. I thank the staff. I thank all those involved. I'm really excited to see what's ahead. This all has been happening with one-time funds for the most part over the last 6 to 9 months. So just think of what we can do in the next couple of years. Thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. So you can see a couple big reasons for my optimism at the outset. One is, and I'm going to start with all of you in the room and online, we got an abundance of talent at this university. And so I want to thank Laura and Paul and Stacy. Could we have a round of applause for them? Talent is one key area. The other area I just have to share with you, and I've been embarrassing her in a variety of venues, but Madeline Boyd, could you raise your hand and just wave at everybody? She's our Associated Students President, who it's been marvelous working with her. And I want you to know that taking Madeline and Vanessa to Sacramento and just sitting back and watching them operate was just such an empowering experience, because here's our superpower as a community, listening to them talk about it. And I want to particularly call out Vice President Jones here. They said something that was pretty profound to the elected officials. They said, we have to tell you, no matter where we go at Sonoma State, there is always somebody ready to help students. And that is a superpower. So much so that I had a student at Decision Day come forward to me and say, well, yeah, I'm getting a math minor. And I said, oh, that's great. You really love mathematics? She goes, no, I don't really like mathematics at all. But the professors are so incredible and they're so exciting that I decided to minor in it. I just like being with them. That shows you a superpower of this university. So we're about to transition now to the second part of our exercise today. One was to share some of this information. But we think it's also important to get you in small groups to kind of share your thoughts, aspirations, reactions going forward. So I'm going to turn it back over to Stacy in a minute here to kind of share this facilitation. But we really want to know, and I'll let her lead this, what does success look like for us? We've been focusing a lot on enrollment. We've been focusing a lot on budget. But at the end of the day, we want it so that you love coming to work and you love what you do. So Stacy, let me turn it over to you, and we're going to facilitate now some conversation in small groups about aspirations, reactions to some of the things we're navigating over the next year. So, Stacy, I'll turn it to you. There you go.
All right. So I think we need folks to move, right? Which is good. It's a good time to move. It's been an hour. It's time to move. So if we could just readjust, take a minute and get yourselves over to one of the round tables, that will be really helpful for our next exercise.